"You need a woman like me," Apache woman said, but he already knew she was his home. Cole Tanner had always lived a solitary life far away from the noise of the world. The open plains of the new frontier stretched endlessly in every direction, and he had come to see the land as both a friend and a foe. His ranch was a small but steady operation, where he raised cattle and lived by the sweat of his brow. The long hours spent under the unforgiving sun were part of his life, and he wouldn't have it any other way. For years he had worked the land alone. His only companions were the cattle and the coyotes that roamed the wilderness at night. There were no neighbors for miles, and that was how Cole preferred it. He wasn't a man who needed much. A warm bed, a steady meal, and the quiet peace of the frontier were all he required. But that was before the ship came. The ship landed just beyond his property, near the edge of a dry riverbed. It was unlike anything Cole had ever seen. It wasn't a plane, nor was it any kind of craft he recognized. It was sleek and metallic, its surface shimmering under the harsh sun, almost as if it didn't belong to this world. Cole had been out on the farthest end of his ranch when he saw it, and instinctively he began to ride toward it. His heart raced with a mix of curiosity and caution. In this wild, untamed land, but he had never expected to see something like this. Was it some kind of military experiment? Had someone crashed in the desert? Cole didn't know, but he felt the need to investigate. When he reached the wreckage, he saw the dust still settling around the ship. A small fire burned at the base, and smoke rose in thin wisps. He pulled his horse to a stop and dismounted, his boots crunching the gravel beneath him. The silence was deafening. There were no signs of life, just the wreckage of the ship and the strange feeling that something significant had happened. Then, from behind the ship's metallic surface, a figure appeared. At first, Cole didn't know if it was human. The woman who stepped out from the wreckage was tall and athletic, her movements graceful and fluid, as if she were part of the desert itself. Her long dark hair blew in the wind, and her skin had a rich bronze glow, as though she had lived her whole life under the sun. She didn't look afraid, nor did she seem injured by the crash. Instead, she stood tall, her eyes scanning the area with a sharpness that immediately caught Cole's attention. Her clothes were different, strange even. They were a blend of fabric and armor, something he couldn't quite place. But it was her eyes that held him, eyes that were dark like the night, yet filled with a strength and wisdom that made him feel small. She stepped forward and looked directly at him, as though she had been expecting him all along. "Are you all right?" Cole asked, his voice gruff but kind. He wasn't sure what he expected her response to be, but he didn't think she'd speak in the way she did. "I am fine," she said, her voice calm and controlled. "I am Tala." Cole repeated, "Where are you from?" The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she scanned the land, her gaze sweeping over the plains, taking in everything around her. Then she turned back to Cole. "I come from far away," she said, "but this land feels like home." There was something in the way she said it that made Cole's heart skip. It wasn't just the words, but the way she carried herself, the calm authority in her movements, the strength in her voice. She wasn't like anyone he had ever met before, and yet there was something about her that felt oddly familiar. Cole didn't know what to say next. His mind raced with questions, but he didn't want to overwhelm her. He had lived his life in isolation, and the idea of someone from so far away arriving in his world felt surreal. "I've never seen anyone like you before," Cole finally said, his voice soft. Tala smiled, a slight curve of her lips. "You've never seen the stars, have you?" she asked, her eyes sparkling as if she knew something he didn't. "I've seen plenty of stars," Cole replied, trying to mask his confusion. "No," she said, "the real stars, the ones that exist far beyond this world. I come from there." Cole's heart began to race again. He had heard stories of other worlds, but he never truly believed them. Now, standing before him was proof that they were real. Tala was from another place, another realm, and somehow she had ended up on his land. "I don't understand," he said, shaking his head slightly. "How did you get here? What are you doing?" Tala didn't answer directly. Instead, she glanced down at the ship. "I've come to find something," she said quietly. "Something that has been lost for a long time." Cole watched her carefully. There was something in her tone that told him she wasn't just talking about her ship. She was searching for something more, something that belonged to her, something important. He didn't know what it was, but he felt a strange pull toward her, as if her quest and his life were somehow intertwined. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Cole asked, his voice softening. Tala turned back to him, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that took him by surprise. "You've already helped," she said simply. Cole felt a strange warmth spread through him at her words. For the first time in years, he felt as though he wasn't alone in the world. Tala had come from another place, another world, and yet, in some strange way, she made him feel more connected to this land than he had ever felt before. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert, Cole realized that he didn't want her to leave. The solitude of his ranch had always been enough for him, but now, with Tala standing before him, he understood that perhaps he hadn't been living at all. He had simply been surviving. Tala didn't say much after that. She simply followed him back to the ranch, her presence oddly comforting. The quiet beauty of the land seemed to resonate with her, as though she understood it in ways Cole couldn't. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider in the vast expanse of the desert. As they reached the ranch, Tala paused and looked at him again. "You need a woman like me," she said, her voice low but firm. Cole didn't respond right away. He wasn't sure what she meant, but deep down, he already knew the truth. She was more than just a visitor. She was something he had been waiting for without even knowing it. Tala was home. The days that followed the crash felt like they were moving at a slower pace. Cole Tanner had never been one for change, but having Tala on the ranch changed everything. She didn't talk much about where she came from, and Cole didn't ask. There was something about her presence that made him feel like he didn't need to know. She was a part of the land now, just as much as the earth and the sky. At first, Cole found himself working beside her more and more. He didn't mind. Tala was a hard worker, and her knowledge of survival in the harsh conditions of the frontier was impressive. She had a way of moving through the world that made it seem as if she had been born to it. She never hesitated, never faltered. When there was work to be done, Tala did it with the grace of someone who knew the land's secrets, secrets that Cole had yet to discover. They worked together in silence most of the time, but occasionally Tala would speak. She didn't offer much about herself, but when she did speak, her words were always insightful and profound. One evening, after a long day of tending to the cattle, Cole sat on the porch of the small cabin he called home. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the land, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of the desert. Tala joined him, sitting quietly beside him, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Do you miss it?" Cole asked, his voice soft. He wasn't sure what he meant by it, whether he was asking about the land she came from, or the life she left behind. But he asked it anyway. Tala's gaze didn't shift. "I miss the stars," she said simply. "But this land is different. It speaks to me in ways I don't fully understand." Cole nodded slowly, taking in her words. He had never thought much about the land speaking to him. To him it was simply home, a place to survive. But Tala made him see it differently, as if there was something deeper, something ancient in the very soil beneath their feet. After a long silence, Tala spoke again. "You're not like most people I've met," she said, her voice thoughtful. "You don't seek power." "You don't try to control the land, you just live with it." Cole felt a strange warmth in his chest at her words. He had never seen himself as special. He was just a rancher, a man doing his best to survive. But Tala's words made him feel as though he was part of something larger, something beyond himself. As the days passed, Cole found himself growing closer to Tala. They spent their evenings together, sitting under the stars, talking quietly about their lives. Cole shared stories of his childhood, of his family, of how he had come to the frontier to build a life on his own. Tala, in turn, shared bits and pieces of her own journey, though she never spoke of her past in detail. He knew that there was more to her than she was letting on. He could see it in the way her eyes darkened when she spoke of her home, the way her hand would sometimes drift to the strange symbols on her arm, marks that were unlike anything he had ever seen. But he didn't press her. He could sense that Tala was a woman who had seen more than her fair share of hardship, and he wasn't about to make her relive it. But as much as they grew closer, there was always something between them, an invisible wall that neither of them could break down. Cole felt it in the way Tala kept some distance, the way she held back when he tried to get too close. And he understood. She wasn't like the women he had known before. She wasn't looking for comfort or affection. She was something else, something powerful, something that Cole couldn't fully understand, but something that he couldn't ignore. The tension between them began to build, and Cole could feel it in every interaction. He found himself thinking about her more and more, wondering about her life before the crash, wondering if she had ever known love or if she was simply too different from him to ever want something like that. One night, after a particularly long day, Cole found Tala by the well, her fingers brushing over the stones. The moonlight cast a soft glow on her face, making her look almost ethereal. There was something about her under the moonlight that made Cole's heart beat faster. "You know," Cole said quietly, "I never expected anything like this." Tala turned to him, her dark eyes meeting his. "What do you mean?" "I didn't expect to find someone like you," Cole said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Someone who feels like home." Tala didn't say anything at first. She simply looked at him, as if she were trying to understand his words. Then she spoke softly, her voice carrying a weight of truth that Cole couldn't ignore. "You need a woman like me," she said, her gaze intense. "But you already knew that, didn't you?" Cole was silent for a moment, his heart hammering in his chest. He had known, hadn't he? From the moment he saw her, something inside him had told him that she was different, that she was meant to be part of his life. He had felt it, in the way she moved, in the way she made him see the land differently. Tala was more than just a woman to him. She was a force of nature, a presence that he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. "I do need you," Cole said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "But I think I've known that since the moment you stepped onto this land." Tala's expression softened, but there was still something in her eyes that Cole couldn't quite reach. "It's not just about needing someone," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "It's about understanding what it means to belong, to truly belong." Cole felt the weight of her words, and for the first time, he realized that Tala wasn't just looking for a place in his life. She was looking for something deeper, something that went beyond the physical world. She was searching for a sense of home, a place where she could truly belong, and in that moment Cole understood. Didn't he understood that she wasn't just his home? She needed him as much as he needed her. But before he could say anything more, Tala stood up, brushing the dirt from her clothes. "The land speaks to me," she said softly, "but I'm not sure if it's calling me back or pulling me closer to you." He didn't know what the future held for them, but one thing was certain: he couldn't let her go. Not now. Not ever. The days on the ranch had started to feel like a strange new reality for Cole Tanner. Life was the same, and yet everything had changed. Tala was with him now, her presence a constant reminder of the unfamiliar. There was something magnetic about her, something that drew him in, though it remained a mystery to him. He never imagined that a woman like Tala, with so much history in her eyes and strength in her step, would be a part of his life. But as much as Cole found himself drawn to her, he couldn't deny the unease that had begun to settle in his chest. The more he learned about her, the more he realized that she wasn't just any woman. Tala was from somewhere far away, a place that Cole couldn't even begin to understand. The symbols on her skin, the quiet strength she carried with her, and the way she sometimes seemed to be listening to something only she could hear, they all pointed to the fact that Tala wasn't from this world, and yet she had become his world. Things were peaceful between them for a while. They worked the ranch together, and slowly, Cole began to feel like he was becoming part of her world. He learned how she moved through life with a quiet sense of purpose, how she could read the wind and the stars as if they were old friends. She taught him how to listen to the land in ways he had never imagined, showing him the secrets of the earth that had once seemed like nothing more than dust beneath his boots. But in the back of his mind, Cole knew that Tala's time on the ranch was limited. She hadn't said it outright, but he could see the restlessness in her eyes. There was something pulling her, something calling her away, and Cole didn't know how much longer he could keep her there. The quiet tension between them grew with each passing day. They both knew it, but neither of them spoke of it. Tala had her own mission, something she wasn't ready to share with Cole, and Cole had a ranch to tend to, a life to protect. Yet in their silence, a bond had formed. It was as if they were both waiting for something to happen, something neither of them could control. One evening, after a long day working under the scorching sun, Cole stood on the porch of his cabin, staring out at the horizon. The sky was painted with the warm colors of the setting sun, and the land stretched out before him like an endless sea of gold and brown. He had always found peace in the vast emptiness of the desert, but tonight it felt different. There was a weight in the air, a heaviness that he couldn't shake. Tala came out onto the porch, her footsteps light but sure. She didn't speak at first, but when she stood beside him, Cole could feel the quiet power that she carried. He turned to her, his heart heavy with unspoken words. "You're leaving, aren't you?" he asked, his voice low. Tala didn't answer right away. She simply looked at the horizon, her eyes scanning the land as if searching for something. Then, after a long silence, she spoke. "I have to," she said softly. "There is something calling me. I don't know if it's the land or if it's something else, but I can't ignore it any longer." Cole's heart sank. He had known this day would come, but that didn't make it any easier. Tala was meant for something more, something far beyond the small ranch he had built for himself. She was a force of nature, and the land she had come from was calling her back. "I don't want you to go," Cole said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how I'll keep going without you." Tala turned to him then, her expression unreadable. "You will," she said. "You're strong, Cole. You've always known how to survive, how to make your way in this world. You don't need me to show you the way." "I don't know what I'll do without you," Cole repeated, his voice quieter now. Tala reached out, placing a hand on his arm. Her touch was gentle but firm, grounding him in a way that only she could. "You don't need me to guide you," she said. "I came here to help you understand the land, to help you see what's always been in front of you. But the truth is, I've never been a part of your world. I've always known that, and now I have to go back to where I belong." Cole swallowed the lump in his throat. He wanted to protest, to tell her that she belonged here, with him, but deep down he knew she was right. She had never truly belonged to this world, just as he had never truly belonged to hers. They were two people from different worlds, drawn together by something they couldn't explain. For a long time they stood there in silence, the weight of the moment settling between them like a thick fog. Finally, Tala spoke again. "There's something I need to tell you, Cole," she said, her voice quieter now. "The reason I came here, the reason I crashed. It's not just about me. It's about something bigger. Something that has been waiting for centuries." Cole turned to her, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" Tala's eyes darkened, and for the first time, Cole saw a flicker of fear in her gaze. "There's a power buried deep beneath this land, Cole. Power that has been hidden for a long time. And I was sent here to find it. To awaken it." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of power?" Tala shook her head, her expression grim. "I don't know. But I can feel it. It's tied to me, to my people. And I can't ignore it any longer." Cole stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. He had always known there was something different about Tala, something otherworldly, but he hadn't realized the magnitude of it. She was part of something ancient, something tied to the very land he called home. "Is it dangerous?" Cole asked, his voice tight with worry. Tala looked at him, her eyes softening. "I don't know, but I can't stay here any longer. The land is calling me, and I have to go." For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Cole didn't know what to say. He had always known this day would come, but now that it was here, he didn't know how to let go. "I'll never forget you, Tala," Cole said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "You'll always be a part of me, a part of this land." Tala smiled softly, her eyes filled with something between sadness and gratitude. "And you'll always be a part of me, Cole," she said, "no matter where I go." With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night, leaving Cole standing alone on the porch. The land around him was silent, the wind carrying the scent of the desert, and as the stars above began to shine, Cole realized that Tala had always been a part of him, even if their worlds had never truly aligned. Cole Tanner stood on the porch of his cabin, staring into the vast, empty desert. The sun had set hours ago, but the cool evening air did little to ease the weight that had settled on his shoulders. Tala had left him, and though he knew it was for the best, the emptiness in his chest felt like a wound that wouldn't heal. He had never imagined that someone, could come into his life and change everything so quickly. Tala had been his anchor, his guide, and now she was gone. Gone to find whatever it was that called her, whatever force had brought her to this land, something ancient and mysterious that Cole couldn't understand. The night sky stretched above him, the stars twinkling like distant memories, and for the first time in his life, Cole felt small, alone. But even in the quiet of his thoughts, he knew that Tala had left something behind, something that would always be with him. She had changed the way he saw the land, the way he understood it. The desert no longer felt like a place he simply survived. It was a place that had its own heartbeat, its own rhythm, and Tala had shown him that. As days turned into weeks, Cole tried to focus on his work. He took care of the cattle, mended the fences, and made sure the ranch ran smoothly. But everything felt different. The land, which had once felt like a companion, now felt silent and distant. The absence of Tala left a void he couldn't fill. One evening, as he walked to the well to collect water, Cole noticed something strange. There, just beyond the line of cactus trees, he saw a figure standing in the shadows. At first he thought it was a trick of the light, but as he stepped closer he realized it was her, Tala. His heart skipped a beat. He had thought she was gone for good, but here she was, standing in front of him like a dream made real. Tala? Cole's voice cracked with disbelief. He didn't know if he was more relieved or confused. What are you doing here? Tala turned to face him, her expression serious. I had to come back, she said softly. I made a choice. Cole stood frozen, his mind racing. She was back. But why? What had changed? I thought you were gone for good, Cole said, his voice thick with emotion. I thought you had found whatever it was you were searching for. Tala shook her head slowly. I thought I had too, she said. But the truth is, I was wrong. Cole's heart pounded in his chest. Wrong about what? Tala took a deep breath, as if gathering her thoughts. I was searching for something out there, something that belonged to my people. But I realized that what I was really searching for was here.
With you? The words hit Cole like a wave.
He didn't know what to say at first. He had spent so much time trying to push away the feelings he had for her, trying to convince himself that they were too different to ever work. But now, hearing her say this, it felt like the world had shifted. You came back for me? Cole asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tala nodded. I did. I realized that no matter how far I went, no matter what I found, it was always you who felt like home. The land, the stars, they're all important, but you're where I belong. Cole's breath caught in his throat. He had never expected Tala to say those words. He had never expected her to come back. But here she was, standing in front of him, offering him something he never thought he would have. Tala, Cole began, his voice shaking. I don't know what this means. I don't know what we are or what's going to happen next. But I know one thing for sure. I don't want to lose you again. Tala stepped closer, her hand reaching out to gently touch his arm. You won't, she said softly. I'm not going anywhere. I found my place, and it's here, with you. The two of them stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of their words settling between them like a promise. It wasn't the easy answer, and it wasn't the simple path, but it was the one they both knew they had to take. The choice wasn't just about the land or about Tala's mission. It was about the two of them and the bond they had formed in the quiet moments between them. For the first time in weeks, Cole felt something stir inside him. It wasn't just the land calling him to work or the weight of his responsibilities. It was something deeper, something more profound. It was the realization that he didn't have to do this alone. He had Tala, and she had him. I don't know what the future holds, Cole said, his voice steady now, but I know I want to face it with you by my side. Tala smiled, the warmth of her expression making Cole's heart swell. Then we'll face it together, she said. Whatever comes next, we'll figure it out. As the stars shone above them, Cole felt a peace settle in his chest. It wasn't the kind of peace that came from the quiet of the land or from the solitude he had once craved. It was the peace of knowing that he had found something worth holding on to, someone who felt like home. Tala had come from somewhere far away, from a land and a people that he couldn't understand, but in that moment he understood everything. She had found her way back to him, and now they would face whatever came next, together. And as they stood in the quiet of the desert under the vast, endless sky, Cole knew that home wasn't just a place, it was a person. And Tala, with her strength, her wisdom, and her heart, was his home.